Also loves sports, especially football, which he plays very well. When he served as Minister of Finance, Minister of Finance, he captained his team, Dollars, to 2 successive championships in the annual interministerial tournament. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, can you stand with me as we welcome to the podium our keynote speaker, His Excellency Honorable Ngafuan, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Dean of the Cabinet of Liberia and the Republic of Liberia. Ladies and gentlemen, the speaker.
Comrades, Honorable Matthew Zaza, Chairman of the House Standing Committee on Education, and other members of the first branch of government here present, Reverend Dr. Saulo Nursing, Vice President for Student Affairs, and other Vice Presidents of the university here present, and members of the University Administration and Faculty, Senior Comrade, Councillor Tiawonse Gonglo, the inducting officer and former Vice Tenor Bearer of the Vanguard Student Unification Party, Comrade Jurati Afonso Socrates Nimle, former President of ULSU, and the legion of former student leaders and activists here present. I recognize in a special way Comrade Militant Samuel Dotwa, former standard bearer of the Mighty Student Democratic Alliance, TUDA, and other members of the veteran community of SIM, TUDA, and SUP here present. Comrade Daniel Watt, President-elect of the University of Liberia Student Union, and other officers-elect, the Speaker, the members of the Student Legislative Assembly, Comrade Militant Nathan Powell, Chairman of the Vanguard Student Unification Party,
Amanda!
heads of other campus-based student political parties and organizations, distinguished compatriots and friends, especially our brothers and sisters of the Muslim community who are today officially ending a month of fasting and prayer in the holy month of Ramadan. Members of the Fourth Estate, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I mount this podium to serve as guest speaker at the induction of the President and other officers-elect of the University of Liberia Student Union also, I must confess that nostalgic bumps are beginning to creep on my skin, as my mind conjures up memories of a similar event held in the self-same auditorium in June 1998, when a young student leader by the name of Ngafuan, then serving as standard bearer of the Vanguard Student Unification Party, was inducted as president of the University of Liberia Student Union, also following a decisive victory in a hotly contested also presidential election. Today, 17 years later, I have come not to take the oath to protect and defend the Constitution and bylaws of ULSU, but to deliver the keynote as another young man, Comrade Daniel Ward, takes the oath and assumes the mantle of leadership of ULSU. Mr. President-elect and members of ULSU, I could not turn down your invitation despite my overly hectic official duties, because I have a trinity of links with the university. Besides being a former president of ULSU, I am also the current secretary of the Board of Trustees of the University of Liberia. Additionally, I am a lecturer at the university, although presently on sabbatical. I thank you all for inviting me into what is clearly another family reunion, judging by the presence here today of a good number of present and former student leaders and activists, as well as a good representation of the cross-section of the university family. Comrade President-elect and other officers of ULSU, I want you to remember that by being elected and inducted as leaders of students at this university, you have today joined the community of individuals that can rightfully be called Liberian leaders. As I define Liberian leaders, not only as those who occupy the executive mansion, the Capitol building, the Supreme Court, the ministries, agencies, and public corporations, but all those in leadership positions in our country, whether in government or out of government, whose actions and or inactions affect the peace, stability, and development of Liberia. Good ULSU leaders will be pivotal in keeping this university environment peaceful and progressive, while bad ULSU leaders may contribute greatly to transforming the university into an epicenter of crisis and violence, and all their attendant implications. Comrade President-elect, as you begin this historic journey of leading your people, I guess you have carved up a host of ambitious plans and projects that you intend to execute during your tenure. You might have also given some thoughts to how you will handle potentially explosive issues that relate to the well-being of this university as well as our dear country. At this critical juncture, as all the big plans and dreams compete for space in your mind, I guess you may be hoping that the Almighty God will give you a magic wand that you can just wave for all your wishes to be fulfilled. But suppose, as happened in biblical days, the Lord Almighty, the creator of all things, were to appear to you and ask, my son Daniel, as you begin your tenure as ULSU president, what can I do for you? Ask, and you shall receive. What will be your request to the omnipotent creator of all things, Mr. President? Will you want God to hand you the keys to a flashy car with a license plate inscribed on it, ULSU 1, so that everyone who ever doubted that you were the ULSU president will now see you and say, "All hail the president"? Or will you ask for a vote full of money so that you can fund, among other things, the ULSU scholarship scheme and engage in other developmental projects?
Yeah.
Or would you behave like young King Solomon, who, when I asked a similar question by the Almighty, asked for wisdom in order to govern Israel in the right way? I would definitely urge you, my young brothers and sisters, to follow the footsteps of wise King Solomon and seek ye first the kingdom of wisdom, and all other things will be added unto you. Leading wisely is critical to success in any leadership challenge. What are some elements of leading wisely? I must confess again that I do not possess adequate answers to this question. But my humble experience in leadership, both as a student and as a government official, coupled with my reading of history and current events, has given me the basis to share with you, young comrades, my thoughts. Firstly, don't proceed as if the war began on the day you assume office. In other words, there is a past that you inherited. Therefore, to lead wisely, you must learn lessons from the past. But as you look to the past, don't start with a preconceived notion that everything done in the past was bad. Everyone can become a good coach after the match. With the benefit of hindsight, everyone's vision is 2020. Sometimes, individuals ascending to leadership get so fixated on lamenting the evils of the past or lapses of their predecessors that they spend less time thinking soberly of the challenges of the present and the future. Interestingly, some of these individuals ultimately perform worse than their predecessors because a driver who spends all his time looking in the rear view mirror will ultimately veer off the road and end up in the ditch. Tearing down the good plans, projects, and visions of the past just because they were crafted or initiated in the past is not an element of leading with wisdom. Leading with wisdom will entail doing an unbiased and thorough review of the past in order to build on what worked well and avoid the errors and lapses that occurred. Looking to the past may be helpful in identifying where the paths were dark and where the landmines were littered. Leaders are not angels or deputy gods, so they too can make mistakes. But let their mistakes be new mistakes. Secondly, don't proceed as if the world will come to an end on the day you leave office. Just as there is a past that you inherited, there is a future that you will bequeath. A leader is only the intersection between the past and the future. To lead wisely, you will also have to look to the future in order to avoid taking decisions that are only beneficial today, but shortchanges the future generations. Wisdom in leadership is having the ability to see beyond the tip of one's nose and seeing afar, even when the weather is misty. Wisdom is leaving a solid legacy behind, fundamentally transforming society or effecting paradigm shifts that redound to the benefit of the generation of today and tomorrow. Leading wisely is simply leading with an eye on the future, being concerned about what posterity will say about you or what appetites will be written on your tomb when you are dead and gone. Third, have an eye for the strategic. A wise leader will have to set out knowing fully well that no matter how hard he or she tries, it is going to be extremely difficult to achieve all the lofty goals and plans that he or she anticipated upon assuming office. Oftentimes, exogenous factors will intervene to make the achievement of certain goals practically impossible. Additionally, a leader needs to understand that he or she cannot be all things to all men, and that to achieve some real big transformative targets will incur opposition or enmity from even people hitherto considered as true friends. But in the midst of all the changing circumstances and the headaches and heartaches of leadership, the wise leader will keep his eye or her eye on the strategic, never dropping the ball on the core strategic values and goals, but always recognizing that there is a myriad of tactical paths that may lead to the same outcome. The key is taking the best possible path to achieve the core objective in light of current realities. So a leader will have to pick his battles, realizing that you can lose some battles and still win the war. In fact, there are some battles that are not worth winning, as the victories they bring are sometimes more costly than defeats. Having an eye on the strategic is therefore determining which battles you may afford to lose and which battles you must win in order to win the war. To lead wisely, you should have the right motivation. A leader embarking on whatever plan or objective should be inspired by the right reasons, the right intentions, not selfish, parochial, or pecuniary motivations. However, it should be realized that good intentions alone do not translate to good outcomes or results. I repeat, good intentions alone do not translate to good outcomes and results. The wife who cooks a tasteless dish for the husband has good intentions, but she chose the wrong or inadequate means to translate her good intentions to good outcomes. A leader having the right motivation can easily accept his or her errors or missteps and can make amends, as opposed to someone actuated by ignoble intentions. Lastly, manage yourself. Being in a leadership position gives you the opportunity to manage men and to manage money. But although managing men and managing money are two very difficult tasks, it will surprise you to know that they are not as difficult as managing oneself. Therefore, the first battle a leader needs to wage in order to lead wisely is a battle against himself or herself, a battle against unbridled passion and greed. Ironically, the undoing of lots of great men and women in history came from their inability to keep themselves in check, to tame the beast that resides in all of us called human beings. The Greek philosopher Socrates put it aptly when he said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." An all-time musical great, Michael Jackson, sings that if we want to make the world a better place, we should look at ourselves in the mirror and make the change. Comrade President-elect, you are being inducted to use power, so do not allow power to use you. While acquisition of power may be difficult, what is actually more difficult is maintaining and sustaining power and honorably leaving power while the applause is the loudest. In the context of student politics at the University of Liberia, there's a well-documented history of impeachment and expulsions of some student leaders for acts considered unwholesome or not in conformity with their mandates. So be guided by history, so that you cannot be the victim of the repeat of history. I repeat, be guided by history, so that you cannot be the victim of the repeat of history. Comrades, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, during the intervening 17 years between 1998, when I assumed a mandate at ULSU, in 2015, much water has passed under the bridge in my personal life, as well as the life of the University of Liberia in our country. I was inducted president of ULSU at a watershed moment in Liberian history. The dark man, Charles Gange Taylor, was only in the first year of his tenure as president of the Republic of Liberia. And the Liberian political sky was already beginning to get cloudy, portending some serious political thunderstorm ahead. Today, as we induct the coming president into office, Liberia is again at a watershed moment, as the curtain is gradually closing on the regime of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and Liberia, our dear country, is now gearing up to go to the polls to democratically elect a new president and members of the House of Representatives in 2017. Students of the University of Liberia, coming from an institution considered by many the macrocosm of the larger Liberian society, could not and did not turn a blind eye on the evolving events shaping the Liberian political landscape in 1998. Similarly, the teeming and ever-vibrant community of students of today cannot extricate itself or afford to turn a blind eye on the evolving Liberian political landscape. The University of Liberia, being the Liberian society in miniature, implies that if positive things are happening in the Liberian society, the University of Liberia is impacted positively. If negative things are happening in the Liberian society, the university is impacted negatively. It is therefore a historical and logical burden thrust on successive leaderships of the student union to help steer the ship of the Liberian state in the right direction. Because if the Liberian ship of state hits an iceberg, all on the ship, including the students of the university, will suffer the gruesome and ghastly consequences. The university community cannot afford to treat the 2017 presidential and general elections as a theoretical subject to be discussed only in a political science classroom. It is in this context that it would be a grievous injustice if I did not touch, even fleetingly, on issues that relate to the evolving political process in Liberia. Firstly, it is my considered opinion that we need a paradigm shift in the debate and the conversations leading to the elections of 2017. While it is true that individuals will be the ones whose pictures will be on the ballot as candidates in 2017, we need to remember that if elections are to achieve their true purpose, we cannot accept that elections are about the candidates. Elections should be about the people, about visions, about policies, about programs, about platforms, about issues. Candidates should be regarded as instruments or means to the achievement of these ends, not ends in themselves. In other words, elections should be primarily about the fulfillment of the ambition of the people instead of the fulfillment of the ambitions of individuals. I repeat, elections should be primarily about the fulfillment of the ambition of the people instead of the fulfillment of the ambitions of the individuals. Or else, politicians will afford to treat people like political condoms, useful before elections, useless after elections. So let us start to talk about the ambition. So let us start to talk about the ambition of the students of the University of Liberia for 2017. Let's start to talk about the ambition of the villager interpreter, the market woman at red light. What is the ambition of the 12-year-old kid in Foya who became orphaned as a result of Ebola? What is the ambition of the Yana boys, the Shushan boys, the Pim boys, the commerce in our Thai shops? What are the ambitions of the policemen, the other soldier camp shuffling, the teachers, the nurses, civil servants in general, the chiefs and elders, the men and women of faith? What are the ambitions of Liberians in each of the 15 counties of Liberia and in the diaspora? Do the visions, platforms, or agenda of a particular aspirant align more with the ambitions of the people? The individual and collective ambitions of Liberians constitute the terms of reference, or the TOR, for the next Liberian president. And the ability of each aspirant for the presidency should be evaluated against the TOR. Accordingly, the debate going to 2017 should shift from who wants to be something to who wants to do something or who can really do something. focus is on who wants to be something, the political field will definitely be overcrowded because everybody will want to be something. If the focus is rather on who can do something, the political field will narrow because not everyone can do something. As I said once, based on the kind of suit you want to wear, you will find the appropriate tailor to sew it for you. If you want to wear a coat suit, a good coat suit, you know where to go. If you want to wear a good African gown that can compete with the gowns of our traditional leaders, you should know where to go. The tailors in the analogy are presidential aspirants, and the kinds of suits are the ambitions and aspirations of the Liberian people. Aspirants for the highest office of the land need to be subjected to intensive and rigorous examination and analysis. We know it is difficult to rule out sentiments and hasty generalizations in political processes. But if the Liberian people's ambition for peace, reconciliation, unity, progress, and prosperity is to be fulfilled, individual aspirants need to be thoroughly x-rayed. The mere fact that someone has not served in government before should not give him or her any better credential to serve in the highest government position, except we naively accept that government by nature is an evil construct where even popes are transformed to demons. Conversely, the mere fact that someone has served in government before should not give him or her a better credential to serve in the highest position in the land. Except also we naively succumb to the lazy argument that government by nature is an angelic construct where demons are necessarily transformed into popes. Being out of government does not necessarily make anybody to be a friend of the people. And being in government does not necessarily make anyone to be an enemy of the people. We must concede that in government, you will find the good, the bad, and the ugly equally. Out of government, you will find the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is not so much where you are that matters, but who you are and what you do wherever you are. Political aspirants must be individuated and seen for what they truly are. So, my dear comrades, I will not tell you that leadership of Liberia should be given to a particular class, craft, court, tribe, county, or religion. What I will tell you is that leadership should be given to the positive forces of Liberia. The honest, the dedicated, the selfless, the competent, the nationalistic, and the visionary Liberians. The positive forces, no matter where they are, must align or realign. I repeat, the positive forces, no matter where they are, must align or realign so that progress can be assured for Liberians. But nature hates vacuum. Nature hates vacuum. Positive forces, if positive forces don't step up, to fill the leadership voice that will be created in the 2017 elections. Retrogressive forces will fill the vacuum to the detriment of the entire nation. As for me, I've made a conscious decision not to be inactive in 2017. I have made a conscious decision not to be inactive in 2017. I have made a conscious decision to step up and play the rightful role history and providence have assigned to me. I call on you, conscious men and women of the university, to also step up and join the coalition of positive forces to ensure that our dear country go to higher heights. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, Merriam-Webster dictionary defines the intelligentsia as a group of intelligent and well-educated people who guide or try to guide the political, artistic, or social development of their country. Generally, the intellectuals of the country, the professors, the lecturers, the authors, the students and graduates of institutions of higher learning in Liberia, or to put it in Liberian English, the Bok people may be considered as members of the Liberian intelligentsia. Not surprisingly, many of us in this hall can rightfully be considered members of the Liberian intelligentsia. The Liberian intelligentsia, regrettably, is a community of people who are very powerful, but still accept that they are powerless. A community of people who are very rich, but still believe they are very poor. A community of people who should be driving, but still accept or resign themselves to be driven. What explains this sad but paradoxical reality? I think one explanation is that the community is overly critical. Sometimes even more critical than criticism itself. Accordingly, while most members in this community can easily forgive the trespasses of non-members of the community, they find it extremely difficult to do similarly for members of the community. As a consequence, instead of backstopping, we witness backstabbing among members of the intelligentsia. We in this community must seek forgiveness for our own trespasses, as we at the same time forgive those who trespass against us. The intellectual community must make a conscious decision to cast aside petty differences and squabbles. We must never forget the poignant advice of the late Pan-Africanist Osagyefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, when he said, quote, "Let the forces that united us earlier be stronger and more intrinsic than the superimposed influences that may tend to keep us apart." Former US President John F. Kennedy, in his inaugural address, put it this way: "We must come together as brothers, or else we will perish together as fools." If John F. Kennedy's words are not clear enough, then listen to Benjamin Franklin, who once said, quote, "We must hang together or we will hang separately." In short, I would say we must unite now, or else the intelligentsia will be constrained to unite in hell. Mr. President, the members of ULSU, before I take my seat, I need to tell you that I have noticed that over time, and for a host of reasons, the University of Liberia has been losing its prestigious position as the most reliable and effective citadel of intellectual exchange and enlightenment in the country. The number of persons who leave West Point, Sodiwine, the high schools and the marketplaces, and the various communities in and around Monrovia to follow a debate under the UL Palava Hut or a lecture in the UL Auditorium has dwindled as compared to the past. The radio talk shows and the attire shops have overtaken the university as the most reliable outlet for young intellectuals to receive intellectual enrichment and engage in intellectual calisthenics. Mr. President-elect, I therefore urge you to place premium on regaining the lost ground and restoring the University of Liberia to its premier position. The lecture series sponsored by the much venerated Intellectual Discourse Committee at RDC, which I once chaired before my election as ULSU president, and those sponsored by college or departmental associations such as the Economics Students Association, the Political Science Students Association, and many others need to be fully reactivated and promoted under your regime. I do not interpose objections. I do not interpose objections to the hosting of fundraising rallies by student organizations with the view to raising funds for worldwide causes. However, fund generation should not be the primary basis or criteria for inviting outsiders to programs at a university. Because what students of the university would need more is not the temporary wealth that comes from people's pockets, but the permanent wealth that comes from their heads. For instance, for more than 1 year now, our country has been gripped in an on and off battle against Ebola. And various speakers have spoken on various themes that relate to the Ebola crisis at different fora, both in and out of the country. When last, may I ask, was any such engagement held at the university? In short, I want to see the Biology Students Association, BIOSA, inviting Toba Niswa or Dr. Francis Kate, along with other healthcare practitioners and civil society actors to speak on the third wave of the Ebola outbreak, its origins, and how to contain it. Furthermore, being a former ULSU president myself, I know for a fact that many good students of this university do not have the patience or the appetite for student politics. Some of these students are more interested in other extracurricular activities such as football, basketball, the arts and culture, including drama, and many other things that engage the body and the mind other than politics. Mr. President, also needs to develop plans that can incentivize these other pursuits and place those students who excel in them on the same pedestal of relevance and popularity as those who engage in politics. Lest I be misunderstood, let me make it unequivocally clear that by suggesting that we promote other extracurricular activities, I am in no way trying to silence the vocal university student community. While serving as president of ULSU, I introduced the widely repeated dictum that if condemnable things are done, we will condemn. And if commendable things are done, we will commend. I still stand by that statement even today. But I will only add a new twist. Do not commend only because others are commending. Don't condemn only because others are condemning. Do not be the readers of scripts written by others. Whatever position you take, whether to commend or to condemn, should emanate from sober, impartial, and proactive analysis that gives direction to the wider Liberian society. That is the true essence of being a vanguard institution or light in darkness. Mr. President and officers-elect, members of the university family, I say thanks again for giving me the opportunity to share with you my humble perspectives on a wide range of issues that I think are relevant to the forward march of not just the university community, but the larger Liberian society. As you embark on the historic journey of leading your people who comprise, I'm told, more than 30,000 students at this great institution, may God bless you with the strength of Samson mixed with the wisdom of Solomon. Thank you. Let me take this. After you took your speech. This one. Because I'm many here. This. You get a speech. No.